Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Jake and I'm currently serving on active duty military. Normally on my YouTube channel, I talk about finance, investing, credit, and taxes. If that's something that interests you, definitely subscribe. But as of right now, I'm making a series of videos on the military and specifically my journey in the Air Force. My previous video, I went over the outline process of how to apply to officer training school. If this is you, if this is something that you're currently doing, check that video out. But in this video, I want to talk about kind of like my OTS experience, but specifically what tips and advice would I give to people, and what are things that I wish I knew prior to leaving for officer training school. This is my squadron. Let's see if you can spot where I am. That's me, that's my head right there with all of these fine gentlemen and ladies. First piece of advice I would give you is to go on the Air Force OTS subreddit, create an account with Reddit. It's free and you can ask questions, you can read what other people are talking about. Potentially you can help other people. Additionally, find the Facebook group for your OTS class. One is always made, and it's usually just Air Force OTS and then whatever your board number is, so 1607 or 2002, whatever it is. Find that Facebook group because there are people already there. Next thing I gotta tell you, and this is gonna sound really stupid, but you need to get a haircut prior to going. And this is something my recruiter failed me on. He did not tell me to show up to OTS with your hair already in regs. You know, when you watch military movies like Full Metal Jacket, I think probably at BMT they do cut your hair, but for officers, for OTS, they expect you to show up with your hair in regs. So definitely get it short because you probably won't be allowed to go to the BX base to get a haircut for maybe a week or two. If you have a car and you're able to drive to Maxwell Air Force Base, I highly recommend it. It's nice having your vehicle there where you can store your civilian clothes and anything else that you might want to store until you can have access to it several weeks later. Now there is a long-term parking lot that you're going to park in, and your car will be sitting in the Alabama sun for several weeks before you can go back out there and turn it on, move it or whatever. You might want to bring a car tarp. I didn't do it, but I saw that other people did. This might seem obvious, but don't do drugs. It doesn't matter if your state, Colorado, Washington, whatever, marijuana is legal. As soon as you're in the delayed entry program, marijuana is no longer legal. It's not legal in the military. It's not legal on the federal level. So when I was at OTS, they did drug test us on the first day. They brought us all into the auditorium in our civilian clothes, and they told us, you're not leaving until you, take the test. And I do believe somebody failed it, so if you're someone who does drugs, then the Air Force and becoming an officer is not for you. The first week, they're going to have you take a mock PT test, and the score you get on this doesn't matter. It's not permanently recorded anywhere. However, they are assessing you whether or not you are in good enough physical shape to participate in OTS. There were people who showed up to my OTS class and they could not do a push-up. If you can't do a push-up, they're going to send you home because you physically are not in good enough shape to make it through the training and the program. Likewise, for the 1.5 mile run, if you just gas out and collapse, once again, they're probably going to send you home. There were people who, once again, could not pass the waist measurement when they showed up to OTS, and that's basically an auto fail. They will tell you what your score is, and if you are in the 70s range, then they're going to arrange for you to be in a special PT group. On Saturdays and Sundays, there might be an additional PT session that you will be required to attend in order to make sure that at the end of OTS, you're nowhere near failing that PT test. The mix of people at OTS for me was probably the most fascinating part, and there's really going to be four types of people. There are the non-priors, that's people like me, civilians with a bachelor's degree or a master's degree who decided to commission. There are going to be the prior enlisted, these active duty people, the prior enlisted guard and reserve people, and then because of the new structure of OTS, they call it TFOT, Total Force Officer Training, they're now incorporating in all of the COT people, commissioned officer training. So this is your doctors, nurses, JAGs, chaplains, and maybe some other people. But what's interesting about the COT people is they're going to show up with rank. They've already been given a commission for having a law degree or a medical license. So there will be people who are going to have the rank of lieutenant, captain, maybe higher. Everybody else is a cadet, and they're cadet so-and-so. And I think the COT people, if they have no military background, are going to be as clueless about what's going on as the non-priors. Full disclosure here, I didn't know anybody in the Air Force prior to showing up at OTS, and there was a lot I didn't know. I didn't even speak the same language. I didn't understand any of the acronyms. I didn't know the military alphabet. So I was completely helpless and reliant on the prior enlisted people to explain to me everything that's going on. And for the prior enlisted people, OTS should not be difficult. If you've already been through the Air Force basic military training and you've already been through Airman Leadership School, that's what prior enlisted take to become a staff sergeant. And most of the prior, there are a couple senior airmen, but most prior enlisted are staff sergeants or higher. And I'm going to be 100% honest, guys, there's a huge difference in personality between the active duty priors and the Guard Reserve priors. And all of my interactions with the Guard and Reserve people were much more positive. I'll be honest, they were much more willing to explain things to me, help me, tie my shoelaces, blouse my pants, put on my uniform. Whereas the prior enlisted active duty people, it's just the nature of OTS in that it's a very high number of alpha personality types. And these are high achievers, people that are used to being #1 stratted, winning all the awards from their previous units. You then get them all together and say, hey, interact with each other. And for the prior enlisted active duty people, they just immediately start getting into the politics of enlisted life in the Air Force. Are you a staff sergeant? Are you a tech sergeant? Are you a master sergeant? Were you a master sergeant select? They also stratify themselves based on their career fields. They look down on certain career fields. They are envious of others. And as a non-prior, I was completely oblivious to all this. I definitely still had lots of positive interactions and I learned a lot from the active duty prior enlisted, but all of my negative interactions, all of the difficulties and personality conflicts that I had, it was 100% with the prior enlisted active duty people, and they just thought that they were better than me. They thought they were better than everyone. And once again, just the nature of OTS, it attracts those alpha personality types, and there will be conflict within your flights, within your squadron, and just across the whole class. If you are showing up to OTS and you're a non-prior or a COT person, then my advice to you, honestly, is to keep a low profile. The prior enlisted, they're all going to be competing for DG, distinguished graduates. They've already been through BMT, ALS. They know exactly what to expect, what to do. So as a non-prior showing up, just learn what you can. Learn as much as you can from them. You're not going to get a lot of one-on-one time with the drill instructors or your commissioned officer instructors in the classroom. So when you need help, when you need something explained to you, it's going to be your classmates, the prior enlisted people, basically teaching you everything. And what the prior E's all told me was, this is not the real Air Force. As somebody who has no other experience with the military or the Air Force, OTS is a very strange, bizarre place. And the entire time I'd be like, why are we doing this? This doesn't make any sense. And people would always be reassuring me, well, this is not the real Air Force. This is just something you got to do to commission, and then you will go to, your actual assignment. OTS is definitely a grind. It's going to wear down both you physically and psychologically. That's the purpose of military training. And it's supposed to stress you out in a 100% controlled environment. This is a simulation. It's a game. There are rules. And as long as you follow the rules, you will succeed. Something I want to just caution you about is you're going to spend a lot of time in these large auditoriums listening to lectures and presentations. It's obviously not appropriate to fall asleep in class, but you will be sleep deprived. Tips I can give you is to buy a brand of cough drops you like. Sucking on cough drops will help you stay awake. Additionally, they will let you go to the back of the classroom and just stand there. Standing, once again, makes it easier for you to stay awake in class. You also might want to learn the basics of military marching. You're not going to become an expert or anything prior to getting there. It's something that you can't actually do until you do it. But if you can watch some YouTube videos and just learn about cadence, learn about the commands, that will significantly help you when they're trying to teach you how to march in a flight for the first couple days. You're also going to have this water pouch on your back. They call it a camelback, and they're really nice. I actually really like them, even though a lot of other people thought they were goofy looking and stupid and they didn't want to wear them. But you will be wearing these anytime you're in PT clothes or your OCPs. When you're in your blues, you carry it along your side, and they're constantly telling you to hydrate. Because this is the Alabama heat and sun, there is always the chance that you become dehydrated. So they're going to be hydrating you a lot, which I appreciated. And for that reason, they have to give you bathroom breaks. Maybe I'm just weird like this, but I don't like not being able to use the restroom when I want. So every hour there will be enough time in between lectures or classes where anyone who needs to use the restroom is able to use the restroom. As far as where you'll be sleeping, you will be in a large dormitory, and you will either have between 1 and 3 roommates. If there's enough space in the dorms, you're only going to have 1 roommate, but if it's a very large class, you might get tripled or quadrupled up. Between the 2 to 4 of you in the room, you will share a bathroom. So you don't have gang showers or anything like that. You have a pretty nice bathroom to share for just you and your roommates. People really want to know what's going to happen to their cell phone. When I went to OTS, they did not take our cell phones away. You're going to have a security drawer at the bottom of one of your desks that you can put your cell phone in. And they're going to tell you on the first day, hey, turn your phone off, put it in that drawer, don't use it or look at it until you obtain cell phone privileges later at OTS. However, if you need to check it, if you need to communicate with your family or whatever, you can just do it. I used my cell phone as my alarm clock, because how else am I going to know when to wake up in the morning? Which brings me to the security drawer. This is one drawer that you are allowed to put a lock on, and you can put whatever you need to in that drawer. Some people, to never have trash in their trash can, because the trash can is always empty, they'll put their trash in their security drawer until they take it out and empty it. But something I really recommend for your security drawer is to get a speed lock. This is basically a directional pad, up, up, right, up, and it unlocks the lock. You don't want to mess around with a spin dial one that just takes too long. You're constantly going to be getting in and out of this drawer. You also don't want to have a lock that has a key, because what if you lose the key? I'm not sure if laptops are even optional anymore, but you definitely 100% want one. As far as printers, as long as enough people in your flight have a printer and you can bug them, hey, can I print something, you should be fine. But I personally am the kind of person, I want to be the one that other people are coming to asking if they can use my printer. So I brought a simple black and white printer, and I printed schedules, I printed the papers we had to work on. 100%, I definitely think you need a printer. Something I want to caution you about is that your pay will be completely messed up. I would say between 70 and 80% of the people at OTS in my class, their pay and compensation was jacked up. Why is it so complicated or messy? And the reason why is because Maxwell is not your gaining base. Nobody is PCSing to Maxwell, meaning the finance office at Maxwell can't solve your problems. They can work with you, they can notify your gaining base for your tech school what your issues are, but it's really not in their jurisdiction to fix any pay issues you might have. So when I showed up at Maxwell, I didn't have the back side of my orders. When I left MEPS, they Xeroxed my orders and only Xeroxed the front page. So because my orders did not have a backside, they were not able to pay me at all. So I didn't get paid for the first 6 weeks because they had to talk to my recruiter. The recruiter had to talk to MEPS. PDF had to be emailed to him, mailed to the finance office at Maxwell. It took me a couple weeks to figure out this was happening anyways. And it's just complicated. There are people going from guard or reserves to active duty, people going from active duty to guard or reserves. Just everybody's pay situation is unique and complicated. So Maxwell, the people at the finance office on Maxwell, they're going to do their best. but you might not get your pay officially resolved until you get to your gaining base where your tech school will be. What are you paid as a cadet at OTS? Well, you're going to be paid the E5 rate for less than 2 years. So E5 is normally a staff sergeant, and staff sergeants are normally around the 4 or 6 year mark. When I was at training at Maxwell, I technically on the books was getting 24 or whatever it was a couple years ago, probably like $2,200 a month. Now, if you're a prior enlisted, you're going to keep getting the BAH and BAS of your previous base. But if you're a non-prior, you're not going to get a housing allowance or a food allowance because you're living in the dorms, you're eating at the DFAC. So you don't get that money until you get to your tech school. That's when you'll start officially getting a housing and a food allowance. Which brings me to my next point. You're probably going to need between $2,000 and $3,000 when you get to Maxwell to buy all of your uniforms. At some point in the first couple days, they're going to send you to the troop store with a shopping list, and you're going to have to buy, as an officer, you're going to have to buy all of your own uniforms. If you're just out of money, kind of broke like I was when I went to OTS, you can sign up for the military star card. I do believe they give you a discount on the day you open it for your initial clothing purchases. It's just a credit card for the DoD. It's pretty standard. If you don't want to use it after Maxwell, you don't have to use it again. But I can't remember exactly the discount they give you. It might be close to 10%, so that could definitely be worth your time to sign up for. Now, obviously, you're not going to get the card because it takes time to print it or whatever. So when they sign you up, they're going to give you a receipt with your number on it, your credit card number and information, and you'll use that anytime you pay for something at the shopette where you buy your clothes. Okay, next up is the most frustrating, stressful part of OTS for me. Honestly, this was, for me, the worst part of OTS. And this was going to the shopette, the troop store they called it, to purchase all of my uniforms. Because they gave me a shopping list, and it was black and white, no pictures. I had no idea what any of this stuff was. So you get to the shopette, and as a non-prior who doesn't know anything about the Air Force, you're like, how do I do this? Which is why you have to find a prior enlisted person who knows what's up, and then be like, hi, I'm helpless. Can you help me shop for pants and, PT gear? So I thought that was pretty frustrating that there was no visuals to accompany my shopping list. So, yep, you just pair up with an enlisted person, ask them for help, and then you can start assimilating your OCPs, your blues, your exercise PT gear. If you know somebody already in the military, or potentially you're being recruited by a recruiter near a current Air Force base, if you can get to a military clothing store prior to leaving for OTS, and even if they help you buy and accumulate some of this, maybe not all of it, but just some of it before you go, then you're not, carrying all of this stuff back to the dorms completely overloaded, not understanding how to wear it or even what it is. You're definitely going to want a dumb watch. If you have a smartwatch, they're not going to let you wear that. So I would buy a cheap $15, $20 plastic watch and maybe even get 2 of them. Just assume that you're going to lose one and then you're going to use your backup eventually, but you're definitely going to want to know what time it is at all times. And here's a sample schedule for a typical week at OTS. Now, obviously, every week is different as you do different kinds of trainings that aren't just in the classroom. And everything on this schedule was subject to change at any time. So if you printed off the schedule on Monday, 100% there were going to be changes to it by Tuesday or Wednesday. So what can you expect from a typical day? Well, you're going to have to wake up at 4:30. Lights out is at 2200. And for my OTS class when we were there, we would PT on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday as an entire class. We'd all be on this pavement area across the street from the dorms. And you're going to have to wake up at 4:30 and be lined up in your PT clothes by 4:35 to get out to the exercise pad. So how exactly do you get ready to go exercise in under 5 minutes? Well, I'll let you figure that out when you get there. Breakfast for us, it was at 6 a.m. So after PT, they have you go back to the dorms and you're allowed to shower and change. You then line up to go to breakfast, and you spend about 3 hours a day lining up to go into the DFACT. You then get to eat for 10 minutes. You then have to line up outside of the DFACT waiting for everybody else to finish eating. So your day really revolves around lining up to go eat and then lining up waiting for everybody to finish eating. I'm not even joking. This is a solid 3 hours of your day that you're just standing outside the DFACT in the sun, waiting to eat or waiting for everybody else to finish eating. And you'll understand it when you get there. In between our meal rituals, this is where we have the classroom instruction, so about 3 hours in the morning, another 3 or so hours in the afternoon. You're either going to be in a classroom with your officer flight commander, or you're going to be in a large auditorium with guest speakers, potentially civilians or retired military people or whoever. Sundays are kind of like your day off. People are allowed to leave base to attend religious ceremonies, and they're gonna, say, oh, this time should be dedicated for reading. You will be given reading assignments to work on. So if you want to exercise an additional time or catch up on homework, write papers, do readings, that's what Sunday is really good for. You're also really back in the dorms by 6 o'clock at night, and you're going to be put in different, as you're given additional duties, you're going to have different groups that you belong to, and you might have to meet in the evenings to coordinate or talk about stuff. I'll be 100% honest, after dinner, you've got these 4 or 5 hours in the evenings to work on stuff or accomplish stuff. I personally felt like I had plenty of free time at OTS in the evenings to accomplish everything that was expected of me. But you will be spending a lot of time just standing around in the sun, so wear your sunscreen. You're also gonna probably acclimate to the humidity and the heat. I'm personally not a humidity or heat kind of guy. I'm from Wisconsin. So after a couple weeks of just sweating through your uniform, you kind of get used to it and it doesn't really seem to bother you anymore. And while you're standing outside, they're going to be expecting you to study. So you're not wasting time. You're studying while you stand outside. And they're going to give you 2 books, your Hawk, Handbook of Warrior Knowledge, and your Otsman, which is the OTS manual. The OTS manual is your rule book for everything, how to do OTS. And then your Hawk is basically like inspirational quotes, and then heritage and things to motivate and inspire you as an officer in the Air Force. I highly recommend you use tape to basically laminate and waterproof the outer pages. If you don't, I covered mine in tape so it was more durable. You're always going to have these on you in your pocket or in your camelback. And don't lose it and take care of it. As for the Otsman, you're going to have to take, I think, 2 quizzes or tests based on the rules of OTS. Basically, anything in the Otsman that has a number associated, like number of seats, number of hours, whatever, that's going to be a test question. So use a highlighter and just try and memorize all of these rules to OTS that could potentially be a quiz or a test question. And yeah, I'm not joking. You're just going to be standing in the sun for almost 3 hours a day, and you're just gonna be like this. You're gonna have the book super close to your face. And I honestly grew to really like this, because if you don't have the book in front of you and you're not studying, then a drill instructor or one of the cadre, that's what they call the officers, will come over to you and then start asking you questions or giving you a hard time. So you will just be standing there in the sun like this, and you're gonna like it. 2 things you 100% have to memorize before showing up at OTS is the Airman's Creed and the official Air Force song. You're going to be yelling this out while you're outside constantly, so just go ahead and memorize it and learn to love it. And then the final piece of advice, and potentially the most important thing I can tell you, is do not injure yourself at OTS. When I was PTing, I'm going to be 100% guys, I was not giving 100%. I did not want to sprain an ankle. I did not want to get an open wound that needed stitches. I did not want to hurt a wrist or break a bone. There were people at my OTS class who broke something or severely injured themselves. If this happens to you, you can't finish OTS. They're going to send you home and you're going to be recycled into a class at a later date once your stitches are taken out or once your bone heals. So there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff that you're going to get to do at OTS, but remember, your primary goal is to graduate, to commission, to start getting a real paycheck in the Air Force. And if you injure yourself at OTS, that will delay that process. And honestly, you're going to get all the safety briefings. They're going to constantly tell you this, be super careful. We're going to have spotters for everything. But I'll give you an example. At one point we were on monkey bars, crossing monkey bars, and I was having a lot of fun, and I just went slightly too fast, and because the bars had been in the heat, they were super hot, I just twisted my arm wrong, and a chunk of skin on my hand came off, and it hurts. Luckily, it was not too debilitating of an injury where I had to be sent home, but it was a close call. I was being careless because I was having fun. But yeah, just everything you do at OTS, just be mindful of that. If you injure yourself, you're not going to be able to complete at that time. And overall, OTS was a fantastic experience. I never felt like at any point I wasn't going to graduate or succeed. I felt like the coursework and curriculum they gave was pretty good and reasonable for the time we were given to accomplish it. There's lots of personality types there, but that's a good thing. You're supposed to interact with people and learn to compromise or resolve conflicts and just deal with people that you're going to be working with regardless when you finally get into the operational Air Force. You also should leave OTS pretty healthy. I think I lost weight while I was there just because I wasn't drinking soda or eating junk food as much. So yeah, I had a lot of fun down there in the Alabama sun, Alabama heat. And if this is something that you're going to be doing, I'm excited for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay guys, if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up so the algorithm knows it's good. In addition, subscribe to my channel at all if you're interested in finance and investing topics. That's what I primarily talk about on this channel. And if you have any questions or comments about OTS, I'll help you if I can. And until the next video, take care.